So, Nearby Brad.
Give me a sec. I'm clearly not woken up.
You know what you need to do? Like David Lynch would do, drink 25 fucking cups of coffee a day.
That probably would help.
Twin Peaks is a show that would take about 6 hours, 20 cups of coffee strong enough to melt through a cast iron bedpan, and one of those little board thingies you use to connect like pieces of string so you can figure out how the assassination of JFK solves the Bigfoot mystery. To explain...
Take a look at this. Jesus Christ, that right there is the mail. Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Mac? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day, okay?
So you've not seen Twin Peaks, have you?
I've not, no.
I'd recommend it, but it's weird. It's really weird.
I thought, is Twin Peaks a TV show?
It is an incomprehensible, glorious mindfuck straight from the brain of David Lynch. A man so eccentric, he cast a random guy working on production as the show's main villain on a whim.
Did this guy have any acting experience?
No, he was a set dresser who'd worked with Lynch in the past, so he was well aware of the director's idiosyncrasies, which include, and I'm just going to list these in no particular order, drinking 20 cups of coffee a day. So he drinks 20 cups of coffee every single day.
A lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. He has his own brand of coffee company, which is super strong. It's like David Lynch special. He has a website where he do really random things, such as letting you download a ringtone of his voice saying, "I like to kill deer." And then he has a YouTube channel where all he does is tell you what the weather's like today.
Here in LA, a cloudy morning. Quite a breeze blowing right now.
But despite being like a world-renowned director, like he films them all like an old guy on Zoom.
Does he not like deer?
He's just one of, I don't know. He is. Do you know like the term auteur is used a lot to describe someone who's weird, and it's like, no, he is, because he just wants to do his own thing.
Did David Lynch do a Eraserhead?
Yes.
Yeah, because that's weird.
I think he did anyway, yeah, I want to say he did. It's been a while since I studied film, so I had to look up all of his stuff, but it was like years ago, and it's like, I respect him as an artist, I appreciate that he's doing his own thing, it's just not for me.
Is he one of the ones who's like crazy in his own way, or does he mess with other people?
No, he's crazy. He is absolutely 100% unapologetically himself.
Right.
And and he's really, really good at what he does. He's just really weird. But he's also weird in that way where it's very charismatic and charming. Like there's this amazing story he tells of when George Lucas wanted him to work on Star Wars. And the way he tells the story is like, well, George Lucas invited me into his studio and showed me this thing called a Wookiee. And he's just like, I don't know what a fucking Wookiee is.
And he showed me these things called Wookiees. And now this headache is getting stronger.
He also made the Dune movie as well. This is one of those weird things, do you know the original Dune movie?
Yeah.
That was really weird. He directed that. I love that movie. It's because, again, it's very charming because David Lee's a fucking weirdo. And there's a bunch of really weird creative decisions he made. Like, Joe did the soundtrack to that original Dune movie.
Was it one of the set guys, like an extra or something?
It was Toto. Toto, yeah, exactly. That look was like, wait, and he's like, why not? And that's the thing, I'm not the biggest fan of his movies and his TV shows. I just like him as a person because he's just so unapologetically himself. He refuses to compromise his creative and artistic vision, for better or worse.
See, I've realised the only reason that you like him now is because he put Toto in a film.
It's not just that. It's like I say, he's a compellingly weird man who's very interesting to read about. Like I said, you see him in interviews. That was this great interview where someone's asking him about his movies and goes, so he says something like, the symbolism in my movie means this, and some guy's like, would you care to explain that? And he goes, no. Just that's it. Just looks him dead in the eyes like, I'm not going to explain what my movie means. And you can't respect that, aren't you? And as I say, he's worked with everyone, he's well respected in the industry, just this painfully weird dude.
So what's the film we're talking about today with the villain?
Oh, it's Twin Peaks. He's a glorious mindfuck, and he was very famously ruined. So we're recording this at not the height, we don't know how long it's going to go on for, but right at the start of the writer's strike.
Yeah.
And so that came out recently is that David Lynch fucking hates meddling executives because they made him reveal the killer for Twin Peaks way too early. And it's like, but that's the mystery of the show. Like, but tell us who it is, though. Because the one of executives at the studio was like, but I want to know who it is, though.
There's so many situations of executives, like you find it after the fact.
They just don't get it yet.
They just don't understand it. They also don't understand that their opinion doesn't matter.
They're fundamentally uncreative people, but they want an input on creative decisions.
They think that they know better when they absolutely don't.
Yeah.
And there's so many examples of you taking an executive out of something and it's suddenly doing a lot better, like Deadpool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait out here, okay? It's a big house. It's funny that I only ever see 2 of you. It's almost like the studio couldn't afford another X-Man.
And like the thing, we talked about how the Deadpool trailer, that leaked one that came out, like that Ryan Reynolds definitely leaked. Well, like, he says, "Hi Tom," in the trailer. That's a direct reference to like a studio executive who kept saying, "I don't understand what Deadpool is. What's this breaking the fourth wall nonsense? Nobody will get that." And Ryan Reynolds like, "People will. You don't get it, but you think you speak for everyone because you can't imagine there are people out there who are smarter than you. Because you're an executive at a movie studio and I'm therefore a narcissistic shithead."
Hi, Tom!
Like, not that I want to open the crusty old box that's got Snyderverse written on it.
Yeah.
But obviously one of the biggest arguments from the Snyder fans is about how much the studio had meddled in the film Snyder wanted to make. And even though, obviously, I've been quite vocal about that movement and how much it annoys me, I do agree with them that we probably would have gotten a better film if you just let the director do his own thing.
You'd got a more cohesive film.
Yes.
And that's the thing, like, David Lynch is very outspoken about the fact he just fucking hates anything like that. The car going past outside very
the
fast.
race car. So I feel like we're approaching the Twin Peaks part of this conversation. For people like me who've never seen it and know nothing about it, what is it?
I can't describe. Brad, I told you
I mean, what's the plot? There must be a plot.
Well, shit gets real.
But what shit?
Just all shit. That's the thing. I can't explain it. I've seen it and I can't explain it. It's one of those things where, and I hate doing this, is like, you just have to watch it. It's like I said, I watched it. It's not for me, but I'm fascinated.
Is it
by
science
production.
fiction? Is it?
It's like a murder mystery. It's called murder mystery. Someone dies.
So if it's a murder mystery, the villain's the murderer.
Yes.
And who is this person who was cast?
Well,
is this a spoiler, by the way? If I ever got to watch
it's like
it?
20 years old at this point.
Fine,
And plus, well, it's like even if you know how it's going to end, you're not going to know it's going to end. There's a reason why I had that description at the beginning of like, it is an incomprehensible mess, but people love it. Like, I don't, but I appreciate, the fact it exists, because it's just one guy like, I'm just going to make some bullshit. And, no one could tell David Lynch what to do, which resulted in him casting a guy called Frank Silvia, a set dresser by trade at the time, as the main villain of the show. And the way this came about is that Silvia was dressing the set for a character's bedroom. And David Lynch just starts laughing his ass off. He's like, what a snark. I'm not doing that. He's not. He's nowhere near Tom. He's just laughing and like, Frank Silva's like, what the hell's going on? He's like, just look at him. Look at him. He was like crouched at the bottom of the bed in like just the sex predator pose. And I'll show you on the screen now, Brad. And it's like, you tell me or you tell me not. Like, is that not a man in the sex predator pose? Now look at him go. He creeping. He's just like creeping at the bottom of the bed. And David Lynch found that so funny. He's like, get a shot of Silvia like that. It's like, why? He's like, he's funny. I like it. And just, okay, sure, we'll get a shot. He's like, why do you want it? It's like, well, he looks like he's trapped behind the bars of the bed. Okay, cool. And it's likely that story would be an amusing footnote in a longer story about the production of the show, if not for the fact that Frank Silvia actually fucked up a shot later in production. Specifically the shot I'm going to show you guys at home now. But I'm going to just show you, Brad. So there's a shot in the movie.
I'm just imagining like there's a big reveal scene where they're like, oh, and the killer is, and this guy trips over and falls into frame. They're like, shit.
Well, Brad, it's almost that bad.
Really?
So, in the pilot, there is a moment where a lady just screams at something horrifying off screen. And you notice just something in the top right there, Brad.
Oh no.
So what do you see, Brad?
It looks like the reflection of Mr. Silvia.
It is, yes. And Silvia, knowing about like Lynch's propensity for perfectionism, was probably caking his pants when he realised he just fucked up a meticulously crafted shot. But David Lynch, okay, we'll do another one. But he did like it. The story goes out during the editing process. Like David Lynch was like, he had the pick-up shot where she's screaming at nothing off screen. It's like, I kind of like the other shot though, because he liked that. The blinking, you'd miss it. You can see what she's seeing, but only if you watch carefully.
Yeah.
So you see her reacting. It's like, what is it? But if you look in the mirror, you see, well, there's this mysterious man. Well, that was kind of a problem because, this mysterious man is, one, not an actor, and two, not the villain they planned.
So that was in the pilot episode.
The pilot episode, yes.
And instead of just getting a random actor and throwing a wig on them, it made more sense to hire the guy who wasn't an actor.
Well, that's the thing, because just David Lynch was drawn to that shot because, he shot it as if there'd be nothing in the mirror. It's like, so that way we can surprise the audience with what it is. Your imagination fills it. She was seeing something horrific.
Yeah.
But then during the editing, he kept putting that shot back in. And he's like, if you look at it and when you notice it, it's unnerving. It's like, when you watch like a ghost movie or something like that and something in the background moves.
Yeah.
And it freaks you out.
Like the good kind of horror where they don't jump scare you. They just have something there.
It's subtle, yeah. And he really did like that shot, but the problem was, he'd already written the show. And he'd already planned for the killer to be a character called Leland Palmer. And he's like, well, that doesn't look like Leland Palmer right there, does it? And David Lynch's like, well, what am I going to do? Then he remembered, I've got a shot of Silva just looking like the creepiest, most serial killer motherfucker in the world, crouching at the bottom of someone's bed. Why not slot that into another scene to, then we've got 2 shots of him being like a weird, creeper, and make him the villain. And Brad's face is just like, and this is why David Lynch is amazing, because he decided on that and no one could stop him.
Did this guy appear at any other point in the show?
Well, he's in the pilot, he said he's in the background. He wasn't even an actor, he was the set dresser.
But what I mean is, if you're going to say somebody's the villain, then there has to be a later on reveal where they come out and it was me all along.
Well, yeah, that's when they reveal that, Frank Silva's character is a mysterious demonic entity called Bob from the Fuck You dimension. I'm not making that up.
When you say the Fuck You dimension is your made up.
It's not. But it's just this dimension full of crazy bullshit, and it's he's a demon called Bob.
So what happened to the original killer?
Well, fuck him. It's not that anymore. Like I say, he rewrote the entire show because he liked that visual.
So did Silva then get brought in to do more scenes?
Of course he did. Yeah, because he's the villain. He's Bob.
Did he have an acting history? Or?
No, he didn't. Well, Brad, he looked really scary when he went like this, and that was isn't that got him cast? As the villain, the main villain.
How lucky is that guy where 2 moments in his life, one where he was stood too close to the camera and got caught in a shot, and the other one where he looks like a creep behind a bed.
And David Lynch thought it was funny. It's the last thing, and those 2 things resulted in David Lynch rewriting the entire show to make him the villain because the strength of that visual was so good.
It's been a while since we've had one of these where I'm genuinely I'm going to have to fact check this.
You're genuinely baffled. That's the thing, it sounds so stupid. They rewrote the entire show because one guy was just in the background of a show. I was like, okay, he's the villain now. It's just... I
don't know what to say.
It's so dumb, isn't it?
It's just... It's so much more effort to take a guy who's never acted and is clearly an idiot because he got caught in a bunch of shots and just be like, you're now a demon called Bob.
Yep.
Rather than being like, so the reflection is this out of focus guy with long hair. Just you could have hired Weird Al and got the same result.
But he also wanted to use that other shot he got of Silva at the foot of the bed.
And was he worried that he couldn't find anyone creepy enough?
He liked that visual. He thought the visual was very strong.
But get someone else to do it.
But no one else looked like Silva. That's the thing. It's there's plenty of people who've been cast that way. Just a casting director or someone working on films okay, we want that guy.
Yeah.
But I'm not an actor. But we want someone who looks like you. So there's a couple of famous examples of that. One is Jason Statham. Jason Statham got cast because Guy Ritchie was doing some research for the film. I don't know which one was for Snatch or Lock, Stock. But one of those movies.
Snatch was first?
I think maybe Lock, Stock was first, and then Snatch was the second one. He was doing some research for that, and he was speaking to Jason Statham because he wanted to get a guy to play a small-time East London crook and con man. And it just so happens that Jason Statham used to be a small-time East London con man, in addition to a background dancer and an Olympian. He's lived a life. And while they were talking to Jason Statham, he's teaching the patter and showing here's what you do in a scene. Guy Ritchie's just why don't I just hire this guy then? Why would I hire someone to pretend to do what this guy's doing? I can just hire this guy. He's already got the look.
It's like the behind the scenes conversation of like, do you, Mr. Statham, do you know anyone who could be this role? I fucking don't, you. It's a gruff.
The story from Guy Ritchie is that Jason Statham stole his watch. Like, he stole his watch during that moment, and he realised, that's how I'm just going to cast him, presumably get my watch back.
Did he I'd love it if the story was like, you never got that watch back.
Well, I don't think he ever did. Because Jason Statham, like, give me a watch back now, well, my character wouldn't. Turkish will give you a watch back.
You can't get away with it. My character wouldn't do it.
And then they had a couple other ones, it was like Mel Gibson, when we showed up for Mad Max. He was driving a friend to the studio, he'd been in a bar fight, and they were like, do you want to play like an extra in the background, your face is all fucked up? He turned up for filming a couple of days later, his face had healed, like, holy shit, you're like, 80s Mel Gibson, do you want to be the lead of the movie? Like, okay.
I think the same thing happened with Matthew Lillard in the first Scream. He went along to the audition with his girlfriend. He wasn't originally meant to do it, but they saw him and went, you'd be great.
Yep.
You'd be good for Stu. So.
Yeah, we'll put you in. Similar thing happened with Harrison Ford. He was a carpenter by trade, like he was just making sets for George Lucas.
He looks like a carpenter.
Or like American Graffiti, I think it was. And George Lucas, like, he's got a really good everyman look about him, like just making.
He
was a solo.
He was a carpenter, and in one scene he accidentally got caught in the mirror. And
there's so many examples of people just getting gigs like that because just just they happen to be in the right place at the right time because most success stories in Hollywood are either for my look or nepotism. Brad does. You don't know. Your mind's a little bit broken by this knowledge, isn't it?
He's just such a strange
The great thing is, if you knew about David Lynch, you wouldn't think it was strange. That's something he'd do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the missing context here is that I don't know a lot about David Lynch. But I mean, to be fair, there's so many TV series that get rewritten as they go on, and I'm talking about shows with twists and turns, a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense. Like Lost was like that.
Oh yeah.
They never really knew how they were going to end it when they started it. So I guess it kind of makes sense that you might have a TV show that you're making where you've got a rough idea of what you might do, but you might just change it on a whim based on what you decide on the day. And
Lost was the worst example for that. Where the guy who greenlit Lost got fired. He was famously the most expensive pilot ever shot, which ended up a fucking plane crash in episode 1. The guy who greenlit it got fired. He's like, you greenlit a $5 million pilot with the most basic plot of it. So they didn't even finish writing. I think is it a bear shows up in the first episode, like the polar bear or something?
Guys, this isn't just a bear. It's a polar bear.
Oh god, yeah, there is a polar bear.
That never gets explained because the writers were like, well, we don't know, and they just never explain the polar bear because we don't care. And they very infamously wrote the show as it went along, just kept pulling stuff out of their ass. Basically, they'd find out, do we have another season? Okay, string it along for another month.
So what, the guy who got fired, did they hire him back?
No.
But he was right?
He was right, yeah. He was very popular, made him loads of money, but he greenlit the pilots, he got fired.
Executives again.
Yeah. I think one of the examples of that always surprises me, given how good the quality of the show is Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Where they were deciding things a week before shooting would start. The character of Mike, we've got an article on the website about it. They looked into a video one day where Bob Odenkirk is like, oh shit, I've got to do How I Met Your Mother. I can't be here for this week. And what do you mean you can't be here for this week? I've got a prior commitment. I can't be in this episode. Oh, for fuck's sake. So Vince Gilligan's like, okay, let's just say Saul Goodman's got this dude who helps him. He's got this guy. He's got a guy.
An enforcer.
Yeah, he's got a guy for everything. So he sends his guy in. It's the episode where Jesse Pinkman,
his body got rid of.
Yeah, his girlfriend's dead. And so it's weird that Sal wouldn't do that himself. He'd send a guy. He's always got a guy. Who should we get to do that guy? Jonathan Banks. Boom. One of those popular characters. Oh, we talked previously about Giancarlo Esposito. He was meant to be a middleman between the true villain of the series and Giancarlo Esposito, as we explained, just I played it like I had a secret, and audience picked up on it, and they kept bringing me back for more episodes because people wanted to see what my character's deal was. But there was never any intention to make him the main villain of the show. It's a very similar story to what we're talking about here. Because he played the character so well, though, that we're just going to keep bringing the dude back.
Yeah, but Giancarlo Esposito wasn't just a random fucking guy on the set, was he?
He wasn't, no, but it's a similar story.
Yeah.
So there's not a precedent for someone being made the main villain of a show due to the whims of the writer.
Speaking of Giancarlo Esposito being a villain, can we, that Photoshop that I did years ago?
Yes.
Can we re-show it? Because that was one of my favourite Photoshops.
Yeah. Is that where we take
Super villain?
We take the ultimate villain.
Yeah.
I think there was some fan art I got of that. I paid someone for that we were going to put on a shirt, but it got copyright struck almost immediately. because it was on Redbubble, which we still have for our more complicated designs, but now we have our own merch store in collaboration with our friends over at Psycho. So yeah, if you'd like to get some Fact Fiend merch, you can go check that out, and I guess I'll post the fan art behind me if I can find it, like, the ultimate villain.
Yeah.
Because like you kept getting copyright, even if it's like original artwork. But
It was. I remember it was the first Photoshop where I spent fucking ages trying to make sure everything worked. Because as easy as it might look, turning a grey suit white isn't easy. Because you've got to like somehow brighten it, but also keep the detail. And I also had to put a cat on his hands. He had playing cards. He had I think he had an eye patch. He had a scar.
That's what the art someone did as well. They turned him into like fucking M. Bison.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember seeing it.
He's like super buff with the eye patch. It's like he looks like M. Bison, Sagat, Giancarlo Esposito. Was like, oh fuck, that's so sick. So yeah, that artwork will be behind me, and maybe we'll put on a shirt one day. Nisha, you're taking care of that, right? Yeah, Nisha's in charge of like all merch and stuff like that. So she's in the process of making pins. Is it right now?
Yeah.
Because apparently enamel fit pins are a thing that people like, so we're getting a bunch of those made as well.
As the fact girl, is that what it is? What we use for the badges and the stickers.
Yes.
We're putting her on some enamel pins.
So there will be some enamel pins.
Yeah.
Like maybe when this video goes out, we'll be in the process of doing them. We'll keep an eye on the store, and you might see those. Hell, goddamn yes. That organic ass plug, I'm getting so good at these.
One last thing.
One last thing, go
if
for
this
it.
video, you can obviously cut this out. If this video is still going on during the strikes, what's your opinion on it? Since we're talking about executives and shit.
They are 100% right. So it's, every time you see a strike, there'll always be that, like, ball-washing article like, well, this strike could shut down the entirety of this industry. It's like, we'll pay them then. Sounds like they're really important. Like when they were saying, like, oh, if they all go on strike, it'll shut down Hollywood. Well, it's almost like these people are responsible for all the success that you cream off the top of.
Yeah.
Maybe you should pay them. So I told a story on like my social media about it. The reason Fact Fiend exists is because I used to be a ghostwriter for a bunch of YouTube channels. And one day, like, a script I wrote for $100, I think made $100,000 in sponsor money for the channel. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't get a cut of that. I guess I'll go start Fact Fiend.
It was literally the first thing you said to me when we talked about it.
Yep.
Was you said, I know there's potential in making videos out of my articles because it's been done.
Yeah, and like I just didn't think it was fair that someone could like, at the very least, like I'm not expecting any like, all that money. It's just maybe like, a kickback of sorts, like, residuals maybe. Yeah. I'm like, hey, so if it does really well, can I maybe get a percentage? Like the reason we were able to start Fact Fiend, something similar happened with today I found out. They had a video that went viral. They made
Monopoly one, right?
The Monopoly one, yeah. And that was sponsored, I think, and they got like I don't want to say the exact time, they got a very large payout, and the owner of the site sent me a bonus of a couple $1,000. I was like, yeah, we just made a shit ton of money off of your original idea and article. Here you go. So I used that money to fund Fact Fiend for the first couple of months.
And something that they didn't have to do either.
They didn't have to do it.
They'd already paid for your article. That was their property.
Yeah. And I thought, well, that's a more, like, ethical way to run things. That's why when we get sponsor deals and stuff like that, I always share it with you guys. Because, you help contribute to the success. So you should share in the rewards, which seems like a pretty basic concept. It's like, no. And that's why Ron Perlman's going to burn the houses down.